The Battle of Agincourt, the Longbow triumph that shocked France. On October 25, 1415, a muddy field in northern France became the stage for one of history's most astonishing victories. The Battle of Agincourt saw a weary, outnumbered English army, led by King Henry V, face a massive French force. Against all odds, English longbowmen shattered the pride of French chivalry, rewriting the rules of warfare. How did a small band of archers defeat a seemingly invincible enemy? This is the saga of courage, innovation, and a triumph that stunned a nation. The Hundred Years' War, begun in 1337, was a grinding struggle between England and France over territorial claims and the French crown. By 1415, England held pockets of French land, including Calais, but France, despite internal divisions, remained a formidable power. Henry III, a 28-year-old warrior king, sought to revive England's claim to the French throne. Ambitious and devout, he launched an invasion to assert his lineage and unite his fractious realm. In August 1415, Henry landed in Normandy with 12,000 men, aiming to capture the port of Harfleur. The siege of Harfleur, lasting 5 weeks, was a Pyrrhic victory. Disease, particularly dysentery, ravaged the English, reducing their numbers to 6,000. Weakened and low on supplies, Henry decided to march 120 miles to Calais, a bold move to demonstrate strength before sailing home. His army, mostly archers armed with longbows, faced a perilous journey through hostile territory. The French, led by Constable Charles d'Albret and Marshal Jean Boucicaut, were determined to crush Henry. France's feudal system fielded a massive army. Estimates range from 12,000 to 36,000, dominated by heavily armored knights and men-at-arms. The French nobility, eager for glory, rallied to intercept the English. By October 24th, they cornered Henry's force near Agincourt, blocking the road to Calais. The English, exhausted and outnumbered, faced annihilation. The battlefield was a narrow, muddy strip between two woods, Tramecourt and Agincourt. Recent plowing and heavy rains turned the ground into a quagmire, ideal for archers, but treacherous for armored knights. Henry positioned his 5,000 archers and 1,000 men-at-arms in 3 battles, center and 2 wings, flanked by the woods. Each archer drove a sharpened stake into the ground, forming a defensive hedge against cavalry. The French, overconfident, massed their knights in a dense formation, with dismounted men-at-arms in front and cavalry on the flanks. On October 25th, St. Crispin's Day, the battle began at dawn. Henry, aware of his disadvantage, used diplomacy to delay, hoping for reinforcements or French hesitation. When none came, he advanced his line 700 yards, within longbow range of the French. His archers, wielding 6-foot yew-bows, could fire 10 arrows a minute, each capable of piercing armor at 250 yards. This weapon, honed by English yeomen, was the key to Henry's strategy. The French, led by noblemen like the Duke of Alençon, were disorganized. Rivalries among commanders delayed their advance, and their plan, a frontal assault to overwhelm the English, ignored the terrain. At 11 a.m., Henry ordered his archers to loose a volley. Thousands of arrows arced into the sky, striking the French vanguard. The barrage provoked a chaotic response, as French knights charged prematurely, their horses bogged in mud. The French cavalry, numbering 1,200, faltered under the arrow storm. Horses, maddened by wounds, trampled their own ranks or fled. The dismounted men-at-arms, clad in 60-pound plate armor, advanced next. The mud sucked at their boots, slowing their march to a crawl. English arrows, fired at close range, penetrated visors and joints, felling hundreds. The French, packed tightly, became a mass of struggling steel, unable to maneuver. The first French wave reached the English line, clashing with Henry's men-at-arms. The king himself fought in the melee, his crowned helmet dented by a blow. The English, outnumbered but cohesive, held firm. Archers, their quivers empty, dropped bows and joined the fray with mallets and daggers, targeting gaps in French armor. The narrow field funneled the French into a crush, where many suffocated or drowned in mud. A second French wave followed, led by the Duke of Alençon, but met the same fate. The bodies of the fallen created a gruesome barrier, tripping survivors. By noon, the French attack collapsed, with thousands dead or trapped. A controversial moment came when Henry, fearing a French rally or attack on his baggage train, ordered the killing of prisoners. Hundreds, perhaps thousands, of captured knights were executed, a brutal act that stained Henry's victory. By early afternoon, the French army disintegrated. The third wave, held in reserve, fled without engaging. Constable d'Albret and Marshal Boucicaut were among the dead, alongside 1,500 knights and 7,000 others. French losses are debated, possibly 10,000 killed or captured. The English lost fewer than 600, a miraculous disparity. Henry, bloodied but unbowed, named the Battle Agincourt after a nearby castle. Agincourt was a tactical triumph, but not a strategic one. Henry's army, too weak to press deeper into France, reached Calais and sailed home. The victory bolstered English morale and Henry's reputation, securing funds for future campaigns. In 1417, he returned, conquering Normandy and forcing the Treaty of Troyes in 1420, which named him heir to the French throne, his death in 1422, and France's resurgence under Joan of Arc prolonged the war until 1453. Why was Agincourt decisive? The longbow, a weapon of devastating range and speed, turned the muddy field into a death trap. Henry's disciplined tactics, using terrain and stakes, neutralized French numbers, French overconfidence and disarray, ignoring mud, and archers sealed their doom. The battle showed that technology and strategy could overcome brute force, reshaping medieval warfare. The human cost was stark. French knights, the flower of chivalry, lay dead in heaps, their armor useless. English archers, yeomen from villages, proved their worth, earning respect in a class-bound society. Civilians near Agincourt suffered as both armies foraged, their crops and homes ravaged. The battle's brutality, especially the prisoner killings, left a grim legacy. Agincourt's legend endures. Shakespeare's Henry Furter, with its band of brothers speech, immortalized the battle, blending fact with myth. The longbow became a symbol of English defiance, its role exaggerated but potent. Agincourt showed that an underdog armed with innovation and resolve could topple giants, a lesson for wars to come. The Battle of Agincourt, fought on October 25, 1415, was a stunning victory that reverberated across Europe, cementing its place as a defining moment in the Hundred Years' War. A small, battered English army, led by King Henry V, defied the odds to crush a vastly larger French force, thanks to the deadly longbow and brilliant tactics. The human stories, strategic innovations, and lasting legacy of this clash reveal a triumph born of desperation and resolve. Let's explore the aftermath, the unsung voices, and the lessons that made Agincourt a legend. The human toll of Agincourt was staggering for the French. Up to 10,000 lay dead or captured, including 1,500 knights and nobles like Constable Charles d'Albret and the Duke of Alençon. The loss of France's chivalric elite, men who defined its military and social order, was a blow to national pride. English losses were remarkably low, under 600 yards, with figures like the Duke of York among the few high-ranking casualties. This disparity, almost miraculous, fueled the battle's mythic status. The English archers, mostly yeomen from rural villages, were the battle's heart. Men like Thomas Atwood, a bowman from Kent, wielded 6-foot yew longbows, firing arrows that pierced plate armor at 250 yards. These archers, often scorned by nobles trained from childhood, their skill honed by law-mandated practice. At Agincourt, they loosed up to 60,000 arrows in minutes, turning the muddy field into a slaughterhouse. Their courage, fighting hand-to-hand when arrows ran out, proved their worth in a rigid class system. French knights, clad in gleaming armor, embodied a fading chivalric ideal. Men, like Sir Guillaume de Martel, who fell in the first wave, marched with pride but little discipline. Their heavy plate, weighing 60 pounds, trapped them in the mud, where arrows and English daggers found gaps. The crush of bodies, as knights piled into the narrow field, led to suffocation and drowning, a grim end for France's nobility. Their defeat shattered the myth of knightly invincibility. Civilians near Agincourt suffered the army's passage. Villagers in Picardy, like those in Agincourt, saw crops trampled and livestock seized as Henry's army foraged. French peasants, caught between loyalties, hid from both sides, their homes looted. After the battle, locals buried the dead, a gruesome task that left fields scarred. Their silent endurance, though unrecorded, was a backdrop to the clash of kings. Henry I's leadership was pivotal. A warrior king, he inspired his men with personal bravery, fighting in the melee and rallying archers. His tactical genius, using the narrow, muddy field and sharpened stakes, neutralized French numbers. The St. Crispin's Day speech, though likely Shakespeare's invention, captured his charisma. "We few, we happy few, we band of brothers." Henry's decision to kill prisoners, though brutal, reflected the desperation of an outnumbered force fearing a French rally. French commanders, by contrast, faltered. Constable d'Albret and Marshal Jean Boucicaut, seasoned leaders, were undermined by noble rivalries. The Duke of Orleans and other lords jostled for command, leading to a disorganized plan. Their reliance on a frontal assault, ignoring the mud and longbows, was a fatal miscalculation. The French assumed their numbers, possibly 6 times the English, guaranteed victory, a hubris that cost them dearly. The battle's immediate aftermath saw Henry's army limp to Calais. Too weak to exploit the victory, they sailed to England, greeted as heroes. Agincourt's psychological impact was immense. English morale soared, and Henry's claim to the French throne gained legitimacy. In France, the loss deepened divisions between the Burgundian and Armagnac factions, weakening resistance to Henry's later campaigns. Agincourt's strategic impact unfolded over years. The victory secured funds and support for Henry's 1417 invasion, which conquered Normandy. The 1420 Treaty of Troyes named him heir to the French crown, a high watermark for English ambitions. Henry's death in 1422, followed by Joan of Arc's rise, revived French fortunes, but Agincourt's legacy endured. The battle prolonged the 100 Years' War, which ended in 1453 with France's victory. The longbow was Agincourt's true star. Capable of firing 10 arrows a minute, it outmatched the crossbow's slower rate and shorter range. Its bodkin-tipped arrows, designed to pierce armor, decimated French ranks before they could close. The bow's dominance reshaped warfare, elevating the yeoman archer over the mounted knight. By the 16th century, gunpowder eclipsed the longbow, but Agincourt cemented its place in military history. The battle's legacy is inseparable from myth. Shakespeare's Henry I, written in 1599, immortalized Agincourt with its stirring speeches and patriotic fervor. While exaggerated, it captured the battle's underdog spirit. The band of brothers, ideal inspired later generations, from British soldiers at Waterloo to World War II. Agincourt became a symbol of English resilience, its story retold in books, films, and plays. Militarily, Agincourt showed that tactics and technology could overcome numbers. Henry's use of terrain, funneling the French into a narrow, muddy trap, was a masterclass in defensive warfare. The battle highlighted the importance of discipline and adaptability, lessons that influenced commanders from Cromwell to Wellington. It also marked the decline of chivalric warfare, as archers and mud humbled armored knights. The human stories endure. Archers like John at Bridge, who survived to claim a pension, carried tales of valor to their villages. French prisoners, spared after the initial slaughter, faced ransom or ruin, their families bankrupted. The battle's brutality, especially the killing of captives, sparked debate even in 1415, with chroniclers questioning Henry's morality. Yet, the courage of both sides, English yeomen and French knights, remains Agincourt's heart. The Battle of Agincourt was a triumph of the improbable. A weary, outnumbered army, armed with longbows and resolve, toppled a giant. In a muddy field, Henry V and his archers rewrote history, proving that innovation and unity could defy the odds. Agincourt wasn't just a victory. It was a legend, a testament to the power of the underdog and the bow that shocked a nation.